Before written language, before empires, before cities had names, human beings navigated by memory, by stars, and by the shape of the land beneath their feet. For most of human history, knowledge of place lived only in the mind. A hunter knew his valley, a sailor knew his coast. Nobody had yet held the whole world in their hands. Around 600 BCE, in ancient Babylon, a scribe pressed a wet clay tablet and scratched something extraordinary into it, a picture of the entire known world. Called the Imago Mundi, it shows Babylon at the center, ringed by ocean, with triangular regions pointing outward into the unknown. It is the oldest surviving map of the world. The Babylonians believed the Earth was a flat disk. Their map wasn't a navigation tool, it was a statement about where humanity stood in the cosmos. 500 miles west and a century later, the Greeks began to suspect something the Babylonians hadn't. The world wasn't flat, it was round. Around 550 BCE, Anaximander of Miletus drew what may be the first Greek world map, a cylindrical Earth with Greece at its center, surrounded by ocean. Then came Eratosthenes, the librarian of Alexandria. Around 240 BCE, he measured the angle of the sun at 2 different points in Egypt on the very same day. By comparing the angles of the shadows, he calculated the circumference of the entire Earth and got remarkably close to the actual figure, within a few percent by most reconstructions. Now cartographers had something powerful, a round Earth they could actually measure. The question was how to draw something curved onto something flat. Around 150 CE, Claudius Ptolemy published his Geography, an 8-volume work that gave the world a systematic grid of latitude and longitude for the very first time. Ptolemy listed over 8,000 locations with precise coordinates and gave instructions for projecting a sphere onto flat paper. It was the first systematic atlas ever written. Then Rome fell. Ptolemy's geography was lost to Europe for centuries, preserved instead in Islamic libraries, where scholars continued refining and building on his work. In 1154, the geographer Muhammad al-Idrisi completed a world map for Roger II, the Norman king of Sicily, the most accurate map of the world yet made. Al-Idrisi placed south at the top, following Islamic convention. Flip it upside down and his Africa, his Indian Ocean, his Mediterranean are all recognizable even today. When Ptolemy's geography was translated into Latin in 1406, European scholars were thunderstruck. Suddenly, they had coordinates, projections, and a mathematical framework for the world. In 1507, cartographer Martin Waldseemüller printed a vast world map. On the landmass to the west, he wrote one word, America, in honor of the explorer Amerigo Vespucci. The 1500s were a century of desperate need. Spain and Portugal were racing across uncharted oceans, and sailors needed maps that could keep them alive. The problem was geometry. On a round Earth, a straight-line compass bearing curves across the surface. Old maps made it look straight, and ships ran aground because of it. In 1569, Flemish cartographer Gerardus Mercator published a radical new map. He mathematically stretched the world so that any straight line on it became a true compass bearing. A sailor could now draw a straight line between 2 ports, read the compass angle, and hold that heading across the entire ocean. It was a navigational miracle. But Mercator's fix had a cost. To keep angles true, he had to stretch the poles. Greenland appears as large as Africa, when Africa is roughly 14 times bigger. The Mercator projection became the standard classroom world map for centuries. Generations grew up believing Europe was vast and Africa was small. The distortion was geometric, but its effects were cultural. Maps weren't only for sailors. In 1675, John Ogilby published Britannia, a road atlas of England and Wales built around a revolutionary new format. Ogilvy showed roads as long, narrow strips, like unrolling a route from start to finish. Each turn was labeled, each town marked. For the first time, ordinary travelers could navigate alone. By the 1700s, maps had become weapons of war. Armies that understood terrain won battles. Every major European power launched a national surveying program. In 1791, Britain founded the Ordnance Survey, a military mapping agency that would spend the next century walking every inch of the British Isles and recording it with precision. Surveyors used chains, theodolites, and trigonometry, measuring angles from hilltop to hilltop in a technique called triangulation, until a precise web of known positions covered the land. In India, the ambition went even further. Starting in 1802, surveyors set out to map the entire subcontinent and, in the process, measured the height of the world's tallest mountain. They never stood on the summit. From theodolite readings taken miles away across the plains of India, they calculated Everest at 29,002 feet above sea level. Through the early 20th century, paper maps became mass-produced objects. The road atlas became as standard in a family car as a spare tire. Millions of journeys became possible. In the 1920s, oil companies began printing free road maps to encourage driving. More roads meant more cars meant more maps, and the modern road trip was born. In the 1960s, the space race gave cartographers something they had long dreamed of: the ability to photograph the entire Earth's surface from orbit. Beginning in 1972, the Landsat satellite program began systematically imaging the planet from space. Maps could now be updated with photographic precision from 200 miles above the ground. The Global Positioning System, 24 satellites built by the United States military, went fully operational in 1993. Any point on Earth could now be located to within meters. GPS was originally restricted to military use. In 2000, President Clinton opened full GPS accuracy to civilians. Within months, consumer GPS devices flooded the market. In 2005, Google launched Google Maps. Within a year, it was the world's most visited mapping site, satellite imagery, street-level photos, and turn-by-turn directions, all free. In 2007, Google sent camera cars across America, then Europe, then the world, collecting over 10 million miles of street-level imagery across more than 80 countries. Today, Google Maps contains hundreds of billions of street-level images, by the company's own figures. You can stand virtually on a street in Tokyo or a dirt road in rural Namibia. Modern maps are alive, updating in real time as roads close, accidents happen, and faster routes open. The map is no longer a picture of the world. It is the world. Every time you use Google Maps, you contribute to it. Your phone's movement helps recalculate traffic in real time. You are now a living data point in an ongoing global map. Even now, digital maps carry old distortions. Remote communities in the global south remain poorly mapped, and indigenous land boundaries are often invisible. Every map reflects the priorities of whoever made it. From a Babylonian clay tablet to a satellite array, every map answers the same ancient question: where am I, and how do I get somewhere else? The tools changed. The hunger never did. Every map is, technically, a lie, a flat rendering of a curved world, a simplification of staggering complexity. And yet without that lie, there is no navigation, no trade, no exploration. Put your country at the center of a map, and the whole world rearranges around you. That quiet choice tells you more about maps than any coordinate ever can. 6,000 years of cartography is one continuous act, humans trying to hold their world in their hands. Each time they found a better way to do it, the world grew larger. This is Origins. Subscribe and come back tomorrow. There's a new origin every single morning.